Save the turtles. Screw the cyclists.
Hey bike farmers, thanks for clicking in. So we got one of my personal bikes here today. You might remember this from last fall. It's a custom built bike by Ellis Cycles in Franklin, Wisconsin. Guy's name is Dave Wages. He's top-notch builder. It started out as a True Temper S3 tube set, which I think kind of like a proprietary tube set for Waterford cycles. I had acquired just the tube set and I've been holding on to it for years, and I always wanted to make a really lightweight, fancy road bike out of it. So I had this wonderful idea of doing an 11-speed friction bar end drivetrain on it, and I love riding this bike. However, I had ideas with this bike that I would use it more for randoneering, for 200Ks, for 300Ks, and it's really just turned into my everyday road bike. I think I can build it up with some modern, really lightweight, so carbon fork, carbon bars, electronic shifting, and then all of this shiny kind of classic build. It looks great on this bike, don't get me wrong, but I have another frame that'll even look better with these classic parts on it. So in this video, we're gonna strip this bike down, set all these parts aside for another build, and then we're gonna build it back up with the new parts. Grab yourself a cold drink, kick back in your favorite chair, and let's get started. A lot of this stuff on this bike is gonna bolt right onto the next bike. So we can keep a lot of it intact, which is nice. Like these wheels and tires and everything, this will just go boom, right onto the next frame. And try to keep as much of the cables intact as possible. This one I cut very short. I grabbed the razor here, but I don't know, or utility knife, but I don't know if I'm gonna need to use it. But we're gonna have to unwrap these bars, I think. The new build on the other bike is gonna have a little different cockpit going on. But I think I'll use this tape. I've reused this leather tape quite a few times, actually. My personal bikes get changed a lot. I'm either indecisive or I like to learn new things and adapt. Take your pick. Maybe I'm never satisfied, can never leave well enough alone. Okay. Just go around the whole bike and get all four of them. Slide them out of their happy homes. So that'll make it really easy to just kind of take everything apart and build that next bike. We're gonna set this aside and deal with the specifics in a bit. Well, in another video. Okay. Go through and take our front brake off. Get our fork off. All right, I've chosen the Ritchey WCS road fork. This has clearance for big enough. I want 32 millimeter tires. And it's pretty much the only fork I could come up with that was rim brake and carbon, you know. It's very light, very modern I've never had a fork this fancy before, I don't think. But it fits on here like a glove. So I'm gonna put that together quick. I mean, I might not even have to cut this. Wouldn't that be slick? I would like to get a black headset for it. It's not totally necessary, but well, I think I might have to cut it. I think for now, just to get it built and test ridden and make sure that I like it, we're gonna leave it. And I'll just space it out until it's time to cut it. Play it safe. Got some spacers there. Still not tight. Okay, that looks a little goofy right now, but we will get it sorted once we get things built up and we can ride it and cut that down, clean it up a little bit. Yeah, this Sram AXS electronic shifting, you know, it's not necessarily something I'd expect myself to love so much, but I do. I've had it on these bars before, so maybe I can find where I was clamped, maybe not, you know? You're always starting new whenever you do this. Sometimes you can find little ghost marks. Oh, dropped my wrench. Okay, there's another one up here. Probably because I'm using the wrong wrench. Okay, that's just kind of holding them in place for now. Master link's right here on the chain. Remove these beautiful Rene Hurst cranks and these beautiful Rene Hurst crank bolts. I mean, so nice. It's the little things. Get this bottom bracket out of here. These brakes might end up going back on the bike. I don't remember if the SRAM Force brakes are able to handle the 32mm tires or not. And I suppose it kind of depends on the fork and this brake bridge and its positioning. But we know this works, so they can always go back on. So there's the stripped down bike. It really doesn't take much to get a bike taken apart. Most of the time. A well-maintained bike, we should say. One that was assembled properly with utmost attention and care. So there's a cable guide down here that doesn't need to be down there. So I'm gonna take that out. There shall be no cables to guide, because this is a magic drivetrain. Magic transmission. So we have drain holes. I don't know, is that a good thing or is that just a place for water to get in? It's at the bottom of the bike. I think it will be okay. Okay, so I have some Velocity Pro wheels here that I've used in the past, and they're all set up for the SRAM XD driver. Not a whole lot to think about here, we just gotta put them back together. They're a little dusty since I just took them off and hung them up. These came off a bike. I think I did one video called Unbiked was the thumbnail, but I have retired it, and it was a bike that I built myself, a road bike, an ultralight road bike with some Kaisei tubing, and it just was too flimsy. And I thought about just having Dave build me a frame and then just swapping all these parts onto it. And then I got to thinking too much about, you know, the old school friction shifting and 11-speed, which I'm gonna say it again, it works way better than you think it would. But at the end of the day, I really did like this bike and how it was set up with these wheels and the Force AXS 12-speed. It's a low enough gear. You know, you get it's a 33 up front and a 33 in back. So you get a 1-to-1, which is really low for road gearing. I have big plans to go ride this in the mountains and might want lower gearing than that. So that's what it was, is I wanted lower gearing, is why I started rethinking the drivetrain. I'm not a weak cyclist. It's just on the really long rides, the randoneering rides, when you get into the 130 mile point and you're tired and your legs are juiced, that it's nice to have really low bailout gears. And then I find also that on the shorter rides, I get used to having the super low gears, so I don't work hard going up hills. This bike, I'll still have to work a little bit, but you know, it's still a pretty low gear. 1-to-1's pretty low. And I'm just gonna check these wheels for true. I'm sure they're great. These were built at the Velocity wheel shop. And there's a couple of really tiny spots. I almost hate to touch them because they're so dialed as far as tension goes. It seems like every time I touch them, I make them worse. I just think I'm gonna leave them. It's not something I'll ever notice. Otherwise known as good enough for who it's for. I'm doing this because I have plans to go ride in the Alps, and I will take you guys with. I'm working on scheduling everything and the logistics. Really exciting trip. Go do some exploring, go to some places I've been before. So this will be an ultralight road bike, mountain bike, made for mountain roads, hills. Whatever it is about this geometry, I always felt this way about my Waterford too, which has the same geometry. Whatever it is, they're great climbing bikes for me. They just go up the hills. It feels really good. So pretty excited to get this project done. Here's the cassette. And yeah, I know, no dork disc, right? I mean, this wheel, there isn't gonna be a standard dork disc for it. And I keep an eye on things, just like the rest of you avid cyclists that are in tune with your bike mechanically. It's loud, not my favorite noise. But man, that works really good. And it gives me a nice low climbing gear. I would put TPU tubes in here, but I don't have any. So just to get things rolling, I'm gonna use these tubes. And I think what I'm gonna do is order some of the cheap TPU tubes from Amazon. Super cheapos. Might do that today so they come tomorrow or whatever. And then install them on this bike and then ride this bike a bunch before I go to Switzerland and ride in the mountains. But ride it a bunch and just see how the cheapo Amazon TPU tubes do. So I haven't put these tires on the bike in a while, and all these Continental tires, they have some wear indicators. You might be able to see a couple of little dots there. So I'm just gonna check the wear indicators on both tires, and whichever has more life left on it, I'm gonna put in the rear. I do this a lot for my customers' bikes too, if I'm paying attention. Yeah, this one's clearly got more on it, so we'll put it on the rear. I've actually ridden these tires in Switzerland, where I hope to go with this bike. I read the new Jobst Brandt book, and he would go to Switzerland every year and ride in the Alps and do these epic rides, and it's an amazing book. And I have connections in Switzerland that allow me to travel there relatively inexpensively. You know, once I get there, I have a place to stay and that sort of thing. It's doable for me if I can get there. And yesterday I decided I can get there, so I'm going. And now I'm all fired up about which bike to take and how I'm gonna do it. And I was watching some videos of guys riding these mountain passes that I'm gonna ride, and they're all on these fancy European, you know, racy road bikes with rim brakes. If I lived there, I'd have disc brakes on my road bike, but they're going down these mountain passes with rim brakes just fine. but they are light bikes. And this guy was like, oh, my 3428 sure is coming in handy. I'm like, 3428? I'm gonna be doing 3333, buddy. I'm not your 160 pound muscle bound roadie freak, but I've got a couple months before I leave and I can get into shape. I can lose a few pounds and build a little muscle, you know, come at it, two-prong approach, get ready for some long days climbing major mountains. Should be able to get 3 or 4 videos out of the trip for you. So what I'm doing here is way down in here, I'm pinching the tire together, and that just gets the bead in the middle of the rim all the way around, and that will give you the most amount of slack when you get to the end. This is where most people struggle, and it's best to not use tools because that's when you pinch your tubes. These are brand new tubes. I'm lucky, I buy them in bulk, they're cheap. And actually, I should be using a different size. These are like skinny road tubes, and these are plumper road tires. These are 32 millimeter Continental GP 5000s. But it's a nice plump road tire. I like plump road tires, and I cannot lie. Okay, same as the first. Second verse, same as the first. Maybe if I get this thing built up, I could do a hot lap and listen to the Ramones. Haven't done that in a while. The Ramones are a lot of fun to ride road bikes too. Especially if you're like doing like a fast 10 miles or something uninterrupted. You can just get the beat. I never had a lot of appreciation for the Ramones until the last few years. I listened to a podcast, and the amount of time they spent rehearsing and perfecting their sound and their show and everything they do, and being precise, so precise with it. And they focused on songwriting and structure, and like everything was like really calculated. It was actually really smart. And I always just kind of thought that they were like super simple, 3 chords. You know, and that was part of it, but it's actually way more to it, and it's a fun analysis of pop music, I believe, even though they were always classified as punk, but I think it's very much pop music. All right, that one goes on easy. Definitely one of those bands where they became way more popular after they were already done. They never saw any of it. These are great wheels. Yeah, TPU tubes will lower the weight a little bit on these even, especially the rotational weight. It's the way to go. I'm kind of operating on an assumption here. I don't think it's a good one. Let's try this. Yeah, it's good. So I've named this bike Dark Star after my favorite Grateful Dead song. And I think all these gray components and kind of black and gray instead of the shiny silver. I mean, the shiny silver is kind of very star-like too, but like as far as like a dark star goes, you know? And if that's not lame enough, the color of this is the exact same color as my Dodge Caravan. It's like found the PPG paint code and gave it to my guy, and I was like, let's just have it match my van, because I just bought my minivan, but I just really liked this color gray, and the whole thing kind of came together. Seems a little bit high. These can be a little finicky to set up. Look at those beautiful dropouts. And like these are just stainless steel washers that he brazes on, and yeah, it's fun to watch him work. I mean, it's fun, but it's also completely maddening because if I ever tried to do something like that, it would look terrible. Okay, kids. Turn it into a unicycle. We're gonna cross our fingers on this rear brake. I think I would like to use this brake, the force brake that comes with. The pads have to move from where they are, but there's a little bit of wiggle room there. I'm gonna move the pad on the other side too. Okay, so those are loose. We're gonna be off by 1 millimeter. I got a situation. I don't think these brakes are gonna work. They're gonna be too high. If I ever did get this to work. Okay, we gotta keep the original brakes. So it's just fine to put these brakes back on. They're excellent brakes. Top of the line Tektro caliper brakes with the right amount of reach. They're TRP. They're fancy, even though they might not look it. And theoretically, they're already set up, at least in the rear one. Okay, I don't really understand what's going on here yet. Feels like I gotta unscrew something. Very plasticky, but that's not plastic, that is metal. This is metal. So we'll put the brake in, and then hopefully this grabs its threads. Oh, it's gonna work. I thought it wasn't gonna clear. Okay, so wheel's not gonna spin until we get the brake hooked up. That's gonna be great. Okay, let's put this chain on the bike. These AXS 12-speed drivetrains have these chains that are flat on one side and not flat on the other. You know, this is the kind of stuff where I'm like, I'm not really that into it because like, I'm, you know, stuck with just this brand and it's just not universal and all that. The planned obsolescence thing, I'm opposed to it, but I'm not adamantly opposed to it. I don't have a battery in it, so I can't put it in the high gear. Usually I go little and little and just have a little bit of tension from the derailleur. That's how I size it, but I'm just gonna guess that the chain stays are approximately the same as the last bike I had this on. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see how it goes here. Man. Put a battery in there. Put a battery in the front. One as well. I've been told that you guys like watching me struggle and work through problems, okay? So I'm eyeballing it and it looks like everything's pretty in line. Okay, so this guy can be turned all the way in there. So there's big and big, and like that is maxed out. I think I need to add a link. Right here it's so maxed out that it's like rubbing on the derailleur. I think I just need to add a link. Where's my button? Okay, so I couldn't find a pin, and the right thing to do is to replace the master link. just add in. I have some spare links and I'll just add them. There's some other trim type things we need to do. All right, and on this, I'm always confused by. Back this out until it doesn't rub. Right there. Rideable. Okay, let's see if we can do something about those brakes. Well, a different group set of mine came with this SRAM red housing and cable, so I'm gonna use it. Measure out a little piece. Right there, that looks pretty slick. So I usually measure this. I get the housing in the lever and just kind of hold it where I think it's going to be in the bars, and then go find its happy home back here and turn it. And I just want enough where nothing binds. Get the cable in. Drop a little bit of lube. Especially in here, the stuff that's under the tape. I think it's always a good idea. This bike has internal cable routing, but he's actually brazed in a tube inside the tube. Pretty cool. Tube with a plastic sleeve, so I don't have to worry about it. It'll go through every time. There's no feeding, no guessing. Just very pretty, very tricky, very pro. Yeah, if you can afford it and your passion is high as mine, go get yourself a custom bike built. That's the best. I know it's extra and it's expensive, but man, is it cool. Next level. That's got a good feel. So I'm just gonna tape the brake housing in place for now. I'm not gonna quite wrap the bars until I know I got my fit right. So this guy goes in there. Wrap around like this. Then down to this one. We'll just, I'm gonna put that down. Maybe that'll do it. All right, well, I think we have ourselves a rideable bike. It's shifting and it'll stop. Okay, the handlebars need to be tightened down a little bit. But if I grab some tools, I can go for a bike ride. So I definitely just got back from taking it out on a couple of shakeout rides around the block and worked out some bugs with the cockpit. I swapped the stem with one that's a half a centimeter shorter. The 5mm made all the difference in the world. I think I've got the stack right, and I'm really tempted to just cut that fork down right now and call it. But I think I'm gonna put this bottle cage on here because I like it better than the ones I took off. See if I can go find, I thought I had a matching one. that can go here. That'd be good. And I'm gonna actually take it for a real shakeout ride. Maybe grab the action cam and bring you along. Okay, so things are pretty good. The bike rides great in this configuration. It's shifting pretty good. I'm waiting for a chain link to come tomorrow. But the bike is rideable as long as I don't spend too much time around big and big. So I think it's time for a shakeout ride. Just kind of see how this thing feels, see how I like it. I mean, it feels like a fast bike all of a sudden, so let's go do it. All right, well, I got the bar taped here. Got this, trying out this new gripper bar tape. I wrapped it with some cheap cork and then wrapped it with the gripper. I don't know, jury's still out. But anyway, there's the bike outside, ready to roll.
First impressions, this is excellent. It's really good. Maybe a couple tweaks here and there, but I think I can cut the fork. I might even put the longer stem back on it. It's really good. I'm liking it. Hey, Jerry! Look at this big guy. It's a big girl making a nest. I swear to God, if the people in this town cared half as much about the cyclists as they do those damn turtles, it's unbelievable. Every spring and summer, the snappers, I'm jealous. They get signs, posts on the community forums, save the turtles, screw the cyclists. Crazy.
Hey bike farmers, it's been about a week for me and only a split second for you, but I contacted my friends over at Redshift and they sent me their new Race Pro seat post here. So I'm gonna put this suspension seat post on this bike, and also I've been playing around with saddles. I'm gonna put a Brooks B17 on this bike just for comfort. I think it's just gonna make it extra super comfy, but this bike is already just amazingly comfortable. It rides so well. I am gonna put the seat post on it, put the Brooks B17 on it, and go for a little bit of a bike ride. I'll bring you with the action cam. So this seat post doesn't look half bad on here, the silver one, but I always wanted a black one on. You know, I like as much black stuff as possible. And of course I just remembered I have some black brakes from Velo orange that I'm gonna put on here too. So just a couple of changes that I wanted to make to the bike and show you what those are. And then we'll go for a bike ride. So this is the lightweight, you know, kind of sportier option from Redshift. I don't know all the numbers. I think it's like 20 millimeters of travel, so not as much as the one I put on my adventure bike, but I liked that one so much I thought I'd put it on this bike just for those all-day efforts. The saddle, or the post I took off had a little bit of setback to it. I want to slide this all the way back. But that's good and tight there. So So just to catch you up on the brake situation, I was able to get the matching SRAM Force brakes to work on the front and was unable to get it to work on the back. You can just see there's way more of a gap here. So these are the long reach brakes. So I went and set out to find some black caliper long reach brakes that were lightweight and fancy, and really had to look all over the place. Luckily, Velo Orange had some Grand Cru brakes, and they're gorgeous and very nice, very light, just for this purpose. So we'll install these. Just pull the tip off. I usually like to cut them. I don't think I'll be pulling these cables through the housing, so should be able to get away with it. It's really too bad. I mean, these are great brakes, but they stiffen them up by beefing up this part, and on the front it was actually rubbing. Even though the long reach, it was rubbing up on top. It was just all sorts of problematic. All right, there's the new Grand Cru to be matchy-matchy with the rest of the black components. Some might say that it's a waste of money just to buy brand new brakes for aesthetic reasons. And it's mostly aesthetic reasons. And you'd be wrong. Looking good is the #1 most important part of all of cycling. You all should know that by now. Yeah, this brake is a much better fit. I built this bike, well, I had this bike built. It's a custom bike, and I had it built to fit 35s if I wanted them. The carbon fork won't fit them, but the steel fork that came with the bike would fit 35s. Well, those feel great. Very stiff, very snappy. I don't need to adjust anything. Nailed it. A little tight, can't get that other pad adjusted. Very nice. Little micro adjustments here, dial it in the best we can. Easier said than done, bit too much. Got that rear one in the first try. Front one's giving me the fits. Here, we'll cheat. Use the barrel adjuster, that's what they're there for, right? Dialing it in. Oh, yeah, those are great feeling brakes. Big fan. I'm not exactly sure where I left it with bar tape, but I had double wrapped the bars too, and I didn't like it. They were too wide. I really like these bars. I like these ramps and this curve. It's where my hand likes to be. So I just put some tape there and then wrapped around with this cloth tape. And jury's still out on the cloth tape on whether I like it or not. I always wear gloves. And then I also kind of beefed it up down here in the drops. Wrapped some cork tape around there and just gave myself something a little bit fatter to hold on to down there. So I've got this bombing down hills, ready on the brakes, you know, cruising, and then into the wind for long periods of time. Something for my hand, something I'm trying. I think this bike is done. We are going to go for a bike ride, and I'm gonna leave you with that. So don't forget to click the notification bell so you and your bike can stay tuned. Okay, here we are, all suited up, ready to go for a road bike ride. We're gonna do a reverse hot lap and hit a couple of little hills and get some good footage for you. Oh yeah,
I really like this seat post. It's very comfortable. It just softens the whole bike up, but it's still stiff in all the right spots. Big fan of the Redshift seat post. Feels like I'm floating. Up we go. So I'm under load and I can shift, not into a higher gear though. Here we go. This bike climbs like a goat. Nice and crisp. Very good. Excellent. So far, everything's great on this bike. Really liking the new seat post. Very comfortable. I've thought I had a flat tire like 3 or 4 times, but I haven't. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. It's just a thing. It's a keeper. Grab ourselves a little gravel here. Here comes company. Hello. So this is some pretty loose gravel, and I'm on 32s, and it's fine. Wouldn't want to do it all day, but it's not going to keep me off a gravel road. What's up, guys?
The power of the device is insufficient. Please check the device status.
It ran out of battery right here. I just caught it. Yeah, I just had to reach out and I was taking a big risk with that one. I was like, well, worst case is I jump in, right? I mean, it's a cool toy, but it's only as good as its batteries, I suppose. Taking the trail back into town.